I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. Today, next level. Still can't believe I listened to it. Still can't unsee it. Susanna Medrano from Austin, Texas is bringing us a story that I frankly don't want to listen to again, but you're going to fall out. Enjoy the conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. You're listening to Crazy Shit in Real Estate. You'll be amazed at all these wild but true situations that others have found themselves in. Because on this show, you'll hear uncensored, unbelievable stories from the world of real estate. I'm Leigh Brown. Let's dive right in. So now tell me about you and your life around real estate, how long you've been doing things with it. Give me a little bit of backstory on you.
Sure. So I've been in real estate now 9 years, and I've only been with the same broker.
Oh, a loyalist. I love that.
Absolute loyalist, and I can tell you, Leigh, like if you had told me even 10 years ago that I would be in sales or even a realtor, I probably would have laughed in your face. Like that was not at all anything that I had even thought of. I mean, I'm a social worker by trade. Like that was just helping people with a good fight. You're a cancer patient, immigrant, boom. And so it was one little conversation at a gala with a good friend of mine who tapped me on the shoulder and said, Susanna, and I was just a couple scotches in, you should quit your job at the American Cancer Society, come work for me at Waters International Realty. I'm like, who's that? Because there was no brand recognition. But I was having like a mid-30 life crisis. So I literally quit my job, got licensed, quit my job, making, $35,000 a year, and then embarked in a career. And I am just so damn excited to wake up every morning and give it absolute hell in this industry. And not only just in the way of just production, right? But now, 5 years into my journey, it shifted into leadership, which that completely opened up a whole new opportunity for me personally. And I owe it all to getting my license in real estate.
So it's so funny. You describe your social work life as helping people. And that's what real estate is. And you're like, and I help immigrants. And that's what real estate does. And you help cancer patients. And we help cancer patients too. So I think it's so fun that your description of your social work life is literally a perfect translation into, let's just call it the correct way to do real estate of
Absolutely.
Helping people in all their different transitions in life. All right. So you also describe it as going all the way back to your pocket card and what opened the pathways that opened up for you. Who tapped you on the shoulder for leadership? And did they tell you what they saw in you before you saw it?
Absolutely. Well, it just transpired. Like my first year, just doing everything within our model, I helped 45 families. I sold close to like 12 million. And
pause. Listeners and viewers, I got to make you understand that she ain't going to tell you this. The average real estate person, basically the average realtor based on the National Association of Realtors number, so not including the licensees who don't subscribe to the Code of Ethics and don't belong to the trade association. So of the 1.6 million members, the average number sold per year is 6. So if the average is 6 and Susanna's done 45 in her first year, I have to give y'all that perspective because that is rock star status. And if you look at the woman, you can tell she's not going to sit there and toot her horn correctly. So I'm going to give you some stats so that it's correctly tooted. So carry on, my sister, carry on.
So, okay, yes. And you know what it was about, Leigh? It was prospecting, time blocking. And I can tell you we're a brokerage that gives out leads. I know there are other brokers, different models, but that was all on 1% converting leads. 13,000 dials I made my first year. A lot of no. I got told a lot of no. I got to face a lot of rejection, but in specifically learning how to talk to the consumer, what the consumer was needing from me, how to start establishing myself and showing value. Yeah, my team started catching, they're like, damn, okay, Susanna's like closing 6, 8, 10 in a month. I'm only doing 2. I think, I should probably start using my coordinator more. Oh, you know what? I should start doing a little bit more inbound, outbound prospecting.
What?
I should start doing open houses, right? Like that kind of
doing the work. What are you, crazy?
But, I have to share a story with you because, the title of your show, the crazy shit in real estate, like I literally have my own shit story. And this is just so appropriate for me to share with you. A pivotal moment. Okay, guess what happens in your first year of real estate, right? You get enough to know what to get cocky. You get enough to know to where in my second year, I was like, I don't really need my team leader's help. I'm going to try to go ahead and push it on my own. Extreme ownership, right? Like, I'm so proud. I'm handling my own shit. I'm owning my own shit. Well, my first VA
write that down, that it's not arrogance, it's extreme ownership. So I'm going to write that down while you're talking because that's hilariously perfect. So carry on, my friend.
So first VA loan, I hadn't, to this done, I've done land, I've done condos, I've done FHA, conventional cash, first VA loan, okay, in Texas. This was probably transaction number 30, 35-ish, because I remember exactly what ended up happening. 3 days before closing, I get a phone call from the lender. Hey, Susanna, so where is the septic disclosure for the septic system in this house? 1985. Wait, you want the septic, not only the septic disclosure, but the septic inspection? Like, yes, ma'am. It's a VA loan. We need that in order to have clear to close.
Of course you do.
You know what? I was so just trying to just toot my own horn, do my thing, didn't ask for help. I literally had an oh shit moment. Like, what are you talking about? It gets worse. This absolutely gets worse.
So the shit hits the fan. There's so many shit stories you can tell about septic tanks.
I have to, of course, explain to my client there's about to be a slight delay in our closing. I'd explain the other side, rookie mistake. Sorry. Yes, I'm that real young realtor, totally made a mistake. And so sure as not, we get it inspected. The day of inspection, I'll never forget, it's hot summer. It's raining. Inspector shows up. The tank is from 1985. I'm standing in the house in the kitchen area looking at this inspector who had just dug up the lid and was trying to open it. Okay. It cracks and she falls in.
Oh, no.
Yeah. She falls into the tank, like literally boom, boom.
The whole lid cracked and she fell in.
The lid disintegrated because it had never been pumped in 20 something years. As she's opening it, it disintegrates, unfortunately. Her foot slides in, and you know what she's standing in.
I would die. I would just die. I would die. How do you get home?
It gets worse, okay?
It's so bad.
Yeah, so she's mad at me. I got my poor client. She has to laugh at this point. She's standing there looking at me like, what just happened? I'm like, well, luckily we're having it inspected. Now this really isn't going to pass. And so I had to call my broker.
Perfect story here to sell inspections forever, but
yeah. I know a lot of us, we try to hide our mistakes. No, I just had to own it. I completely owned it. So it's even worse because this specific lid, the tank was from the 80s. The tank is fine. It's the lid. So for this specific lid to get repaired, it had to be made custom, by the way.
Of course. I mean, why not?
It had to sit in a mold for 3 weeks for it to be tight. 3 weeks. So you already know how further along in this specific thing of the process. And I did what was right. It was $2,250. I paid for it out of my commission because it was my fault. I owned it. And I swore to myself from that point forward that I was going to own my own market and contract expertise. Like, I love my team leaders, my owners of the brokerage and stuff, but it's not their responsibility to share with me everything. At some point, this is my profession. I got to own that information. And I shouldn't be one waiting for it to come around just for that deal to happen for me to learn in the way. So I really, really took it upon myself to go all in and just executing in a way to make myself one of the best, or so I say, like agents that I could ever be for my own personal being, because that was never, ever going to ever happen to me ever again.
If you are remotely awake, then you know that we are heading into some really tricky economic times. We have home buyers that have put the kibosh on buying. We have sellers who have found out suddenly their houses aren't dipped in 14 karat gold. And as a realtor, you are still trying to keep up with the business you have and trying to answer questions in the meantime, while also managing sky high fuel cost at the pump. Never fear, because my new video course is coming out right now, and it's called How to Dominate During a Recession. I've been a realtor for 22 years. My business went up every year during the Great Recession, and it's all because of education. This course is 4 modules. There might even be some bonus content for you. The price is $199. I am delighted to bring this out as quickly as possible because, friends, there's no time like the present to make sure our neighbors are stronger and we protect the American dream. click on this link, www.dominatethisrecession.com, and I'll see you there. Now, back to this amazing content. I don't ever want that to happen to anybody in the history of humanity ever again. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. The worst. No, that's like a reality TV stunt that should never happen. But I love your angle on that, though. We actually had this commission meeting a couple of weeks ago, the real estate commission, and one of their comments was, if only agents would read and understand the paperwork, because if you would read it word for word to your clients even, it would make sense. But in today's super sped up world with super speed technology, we know that we have peers that go open up the form, fill in the blanks, send it by DocuSign, and then the other person clicks, and it's like they're having a speed racer moment, and you don't have to speed racer through this, because if you do, you might have the lid of the septic tank crack underneath you, and then you have to wait 3 weeks for a custom septic tank lid, a custom lid. Never thought about this before, obviously. It's a really valuable point, and especially when you consider how much burden our brokers already carry when they're supervising the licensees. Absolutely. So why do we put unnecessary burden on them? And they're supposed to supervise and check behind us, but they're not supposed to call the client and say, now, did Susanna explain to you this earnest money? I want to know what she said. And in theory, we should do that with certain agents, but how do we get back to that point where we can get other agents to take it upon themselves to own
their own shit
for work and own it? So what would be your best advice to, not to a brand new agent, because the brand new ones, I think, have hope. How about the 30-year one who calls you and says, I've been doing this for 30 years and don't you tell me how to fill this out. Right. Meanwhile, everything's wrong. So what is your most loving leadership-y thing that you would say to them to encourage their improvement?
Well, that's exactly why I got into leadership. Is I think that's where my broker saw the fact that I was taking it upon myself to not only learn everything I possibly could, but try to break it down and to inspire people to understand it's the will and the skill thing. Yes, you could be a broker of 30 years, but if you're not coachable, I don't want you on my team. You're a walking liability. So what we had to do, Leigh, very early on, like one of the first things that I did when I got into the director of sales role in my first year is we put literally some bumper car like things in the parameter, meaning that your contracts get checked. Meaning, for a while, it was me. You send me the MLS sheet and any attachments and your contract. Give me 10, 15 minutes. Let me look it over. And before you even send the draft to the client, which you are going to schedule a 20, 30-minute conversation and go over the paperwork before they sign. Yes, right? But before that, we're going to make sure that it's correct. Why? Because you have one shot. They lose trust if I'm not protecting my agent to make sure that they're not putting their first foot forward, whether it's a brand new agent, whether it's a senior agent. That was the thing. It was just the rule. Like, I don't care who you are, you're going to get your paperwork checked prior to you sending it to your client. And to be quite honest, that is still to this day one of the things that we do within our brokerage, because it protects us and it protects that person. We make mistakes. I still make mistakes in filling out certain things, right? But putting that kind of thing in parameter, it makes everybody feel safe and secure. Now, the other thing I'm going to do with you is we're going to role play the hell out of how to intelligently decipher that contract. There are times when I'll have pages of it upside down and they pick a page and I'm like, okay, pitch me. What does it mean?
Oh, I like that.
Over. I mean, Leigh, we're only as good as our weakest link, and I want everybody to be a representative when they're with us. It means something. If it doesn't mean something to them, then we don't need that person on our team.
Well, you make the perfect point, because obviously all of these are things legally we're supposed to do. We're supposed to, as brokers, supervise our agents. We're supposed to pay attention to the paperwork. But you made that one little comment when you said the will and the skill, which, by the way, is totally going to be the title of this episode, because I freaking love that phrase. But when you think about it, you said we have one shot with that client. And that's what we have to get back to, I think, as really good practicing professionals. And if you think about the last 3 years, of course, you're recording this end of January 23, the last 3 years of COVID, you've had people working at lightning speed because they had to. If you didn't work super fast, you'd miss your chance in multiple offers. They were writing 10, 12, 15 offers to win one. I get it, but it shouldn't have slowed down our desire to educate the public.
People got sloppy. People got complacent.
People got really sloppy. And I think that's what's going to have to get relearned, which is why I love that y'all are back in the space of man, we've got to drill and practice this because there's a lot of risk that got undertaken with the sped up market. And now I think there's got to be a realization that we could have done it better, even in the sped up market with all the technology that we have.
Well, it's fundamentals. And I literally have been on 2 coaching calls today. I was on a national listing agent call for our network, and then also followed by our national, just our agent call, literally back to back before this call. And my whole messaging to them is that in January, like what has been exposed is the people that have either gotten lazy, complacent, or not literally putting their client in where they need to be. And so what has been exposed is the lack of fundamentals. I'm like, I don't care if you've been a listing agent for us for 5 years, converting at a high percent. Guess what? You got to call them weekly and make success calls to let them know what the status is, even though you've talked to them 10 times this week. That doesn't matter. You didn't have to do it 6 months ago, but you have to do it now. Why? Because things are going to stay on longer. Same thing with buyer agents today. I found myself having to go over just the basic foundation of LP Mama, which I hate LP Mama. I think it's an acronym that works.
What acronym is it?
The location, price, agency, mortgage, appointment, LP Mama, the basic fundamental of all.
I've never heard that acronym before. I think it's a Susanna thing.
I think it's more of a Barbara Corcoran thing. But here's the thing. The consumer already knows we're going to pitch them on that. And I don't want to say the word pitch. What the consumer wants.
We should offer them those items. We're offering
them. What we should get is straight to the point. They want to see the house. So I'm going to go ahead and book that appointment and they'll work backwards to verify, make sure that my time is going to be well spent if I'm a good fit for them. But I'm going to go ahead and dangle and book the appointment and ask, have they had the chance to see the inside of any houses? Why? That's going to give me the question of agency. And if this is the one, would they be paying cash or using financing? Just to get a little bit of information about how I, as a realtor, can help lead them. And that's the thing. I was telling both groups today that they're leaders. They're leaders of their clients. And they need to own that. And they need to understand what that means, what comes around all of that. And it comes into us making sure that we know inside sales, outside sales, and being a market and contract expert. There's the main 3 things that we as realtors should know. Code of ethics, of course, is the main, circle around all of that. But the 3 other items are extremely important. And we have to go back to the fundamentals in order for us to get through this 2023.
I totally agree. And it's all agents. Like you mentioned before, it's not just early career, it's also seasoned, because in the last 3 years, even your most seasoned top producers have changed skill sets again. And so when you change skill sets, you got to get back into this new space. And we talk about, you call it your success calls with sellers. We had on our old calendars, you call your sellers weekly, just checking in. Here's your feedback. Here's your showings. Here's what's going on. But I'm also realizing in the conversations I've had with my agents, weekly's not really enough right now, because weekly feels like an eternity when for the last 3 years, a house got listed and was already receiving offers during the coming soon period. Plus, if we call trying to get customer service, if it takes them more than 2 minutes to get to the phone, we're unglued. So a week feels like 47 years. And we got to remember that perception on the consumer side. But I do love the terminology of success call. You're giving me all these little word gems, which I'm totally digging. And I appreciate you for that.
You're welcome. I mean, and there should be a format of the success call, right? Because a lot of listing agents are what? I'm just going to call them and tell them and nobody has given us feedback. No.
You can, though. You can call them and say, hey, don't hide from them because you had no showings and no feedback.
Absolutely. But it's about what's in the rearview mirror, what's happening now, and what are we predicting for us to do in the coming week to get their house sold. Like just keeping, a 3-part conversation with our sellers keeps them engaged. Because the number one complaint I'd always get, well, I haven't heard from so-and-so in weeks. And I'm like, I pull on so-and-so. Why haven't you spoken to yourself? Well, I don't want, I'm like, I know. Okay, no, we got to go.
You don't have anything to tell them. There's no news.
Then you tell them there's no news. You have nothing to tell them.
It's so hard. We know it's hard, y'all.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, you got to give us a update on Austin, keeping it weird. Texas, of course, continues to be one of the most brilliant economic structures in the nation. So what are you seeing in Austin? Is it pulled back? Is it stabilized? Can a first-time buyer still buy in Austin? Give us a little bit of market update.
It's a little bit more difficult for first-time home buyers to buy unless they're coming from another state, specifically California and or New York or even Florida. There's been some Floridians up in here. Another little thing, a little nugget is, yes, the businesses are still moving here, whether it's tech, Army has put a situation outside of Austin. There's so many different things moving here. With that, there's people that have jobs. So unfortunately, it's like the perfect storm, right? You put all of those ingredients together and it just to go from a 350, 375 price point to now a little over 500 price point, people are still getting outpriced. It's still, things can go off the market very quickly. Things maybe sit. So you got to know your shit. You just got to be a realtor that knows their shit in order to be a successful realtor here in Austin, Texas right now.
Okay, so then in your time in leadership, I'll let you leave another nugget for us here. What's the most impactful thing on your business that you've learned from being in leadership?
It's about playing it forward, Leigh, for me. It's about being vulnerable and being open and still letting people know where I made mistakes and why, and the why behind I am encouraging certain different skills or certain different kinds of behaviors is because I have already been there, done that, and have either failed. So it's all about failing forward. I'm also a big proponent for leaders, especially the ones I coach now. It's all about showing up with energetic presence. Like, why, if you're not going to show up to give it hell, how can you expect your agents to show up? So don't complain if they're coming in at 10 o'clock when you're coming in at 10:30. It's like, we have to be the pillars of what we want and what we want to lead. And it starts with us.
Was it Gandhi that said, be the change you want to see in the world? Is that Dalai Lama? It's one of those leaders. And you realize it's not just in the world peace phase. It's in the brokerage phase too. Be the broker you want your agents to be like. So we just make a real estate version of that. We'll put Susanna Medrano. So if they want to find an amazing coach, agent, all things awesomeness in Austin, Texas, what's the best way for people to find you?
Instagram, like everybody else, right? Just go to Instagram, Susanna.Medrano, 2 N's, and just send me a direct message. And then we'll start there. They can literally watch me. I'm in my own book challenge. I've done 2 so far. 2018, I did 52 books in 52 weeks on leadership when I took on my leadership role, because I'm not tired to go back to school. I just asked backwards. I'm just going to go ahead and figure it out myself. And so now I am only doing 24. Because my wife would be like questioning like where I am at night as far as like reading. Yeah.
Would you look at me one time?
Yeah. So it's only now just nothing but autobiographies I'm reading this year. So, and I'm posting about my journey so far about that.
So do you listen or do you read?
I have to read. I have to smell it. I got to be it. I got to see it. Yeah. I got to, Leigh. I got to.
This lady sent me this book, The Path to Profits. I haven't read it yet. So hoping it's a good one. Have you read this one? This is my favorite business book.
The 80% approach. Okay.
But look, here's why it's a favorite. Check this out, sister. It's a fast realtor book with pictures in it. But Dan Sullivan has coached more entrepreneurs than anybody else in the world. Okay. And so for the control freak realtor who has a hard time allowing somebody else to take things off their plate because they're like, I'll just do it. It'll get done right. This is the book that teaches people how to let go and let other people make you stronger. So it's really good for those team leads that need to hire an assistant, or for those of us in leadership that have trouble leaning on other people because sometimes they're flibberty gibbets, but they really mean well. So there's another easy book for you. That'll make 24 easy. And then you can read this and then have a glass of wine and still see your wife before the day's over.
There you go. Look at you solving first world problems.
Right. Making relationships stronger on all fronts. Whoop, whoop. Hey, thank you so much for coming on the show and bringing all of your bright, happy energy to the viewers and the audience today. I really appreciate it.
It's an honor. I'm a big fan. I just ordered one of your books very recently. It should be coming in soon. So I'm just super excited to meet you.
Well, I can't wait to see you. Hopefully I'll be in Austin soon. Emily and I are trying to work out something because I've been needing to come sit at a long picnic table with a glass of beer in our hands so we can make the world better. Be Shinerbach for me, just for the record, because that's what I miss about Texas is my Shinerbach beer.
Okay, there you go.
Thank you so much. Hey, friends, if you enjoyed Susanna, learned something, or wrote down your own little word phrase, make a comment, give a thumbs up and a like, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. As always, I'm so super thrilled that you joined in for more crazy shit. And if you're a realtor, investor, inspector, lender, or just a regular human being who happens to have an unbelievable story that you need to tell the world about, or frankly, you just need to one-up the story you just heard, then make sure to DM me on Instagram at Leigh Thomas Brown, or tweet me at Leigh Brown, or frankly, any social network where you hang out. I'm there. And if you had some fun, then you totally want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future episodes.